Today I'm going to be sharing with you some plants that grow really well in the United Kingdom, which is where I'm from. And the way I grow plants here in the UK is I don't use a humidifier. I don't really artificially heat my apartment very often. I do put the heating on for kind of periods of time through winter, but for the most part my plants are generally exposed to winter cold and hot summers and just the regular kind of weather we get here in the UK. So it's always worth bearing in mind what your conditions are. We're all different. Let's say, for example, if you use a humidifier or you use heating and extra grow lights and things like that, then things can change a bit. But these are generally plants that I would consider to be really simple and easy and adaptable, and I think that you've got a pretty good chance of these plants surviving. So the first one I'm going to recommend is the Philodendron Brasil, and honestly this is one of the easiest house plants to keep. Not only is it really simple to care for, it's also very adaptable, so you could put this one in different lighting conditions. It does tend to grow better if you give it bright indirect light, but honestly, if you put this one in a low light area, it would still be okay. It wouldn't grow as fast, but honestly, this one really is a plant I love to recommend because not only is it easy to care for, but look how beautiful that variegation is. It has gorgeous kind of lime green splashes down it, and it is also a really fast grower. So yeah, Philodendron Brasil. There are some philodendrons that are fairly slow growing, but this one is not one of them. This one grows really fast, and the great thing about this one too is that you can have it trailing like I have it here, but also if you would prefer to grow it in a different style, grow it up a pole, you can actually give it something to climb too, and it will climb. So yeah, give the Philodendron Brasil a go. Another plant that I love to grow is the Pachira Aquatica. This one's also known as the money tree, but honestly this one just grows so well if you're one of those kind of plant parents that likes to neglect plants. This one just really does thrive on neglect. I just water mine when it's completely dry, and yeah, you can kind of treat this one a little bit like a succulent in that it can withstand a bit of drought, and there are many times when I've accidentally forgotten to water this one, and as you can see it's doing absolutely fine. Just make sure you use a really well draining soil mix. Make sure there's lots of kind of perlite and orchid bark and stuff in there. And yeah, this one honestly is so simple to care for, and I think it's a really gorgeous plant. Even though it's one of the most common plants, I think it's stunning. And yeah, you can buy these in different sizes too, so it's up to you whether you'd like to buy a small one and grow it at home, or you could buy a slightly bigger one. They are kind of like little trees. You can see this one has a sort of, they usually come with braided trunks like this. You can debraid them if you don't like that kind of look, but yeah, most of the time they're sold with braided trunks. So next is the umbrella plant, and honestly this one is just so easy. It grows so well for me, and I've had this one a couple of years now, so I know for a fact that it does get through winters just fine. I do find that here in the UK it definitely stops growing during the colder months, and I think that's pretty normal really. Most plants do kind of slow down or stop during the colder months, and then I find that it kind of starts putting out new leaves around spring. So yeah, there are some plants that I have that do keep growing even though it gets quite cold here in the UK during the autumn, winter. But this one, yeah, this one does have a little rest, but I find that during the growing season it really does grow quite nicely, and it always gets through the winters just fine. So I could highly recommend this one. Again, this is a plant that loves to just dry out, and yeah, give it bright indirect light. If you have it, it can also survive in low light too, but I'd recommend bright indirect light if you can, because you are going to get more growth out of it that way. But definitely let this one dry out all the way, before you water it. The only thing I would say is that this one, well mine at least, it seems to need repotting a lot. The roots seem to go nuts, so yeah, be aware you may need to just check for repotting. I usually check at least once a year. So next up is the rubber plant, and you really can't go wrong with a rubber plant. They are super hardy, and yeah, I've been growing them here in the UK for a few years now, in fact probably more like 4. These are some of the earliest plants that I added to my collection. I started out with the normal green Ficus robusta, and then I added this one to my collection this year, but I have at least 4 rubber plants. Actually it's more like 5, yeah, so I do have quite a lot of these, but these are just so brilliant. This is the ruby one that has a sort of a red tinge to it, but you can get them in all different sort of colours. You can get them darker, lighter, variegated, and yeah, they are super easy to care for. Again, the care for this one is just make sure it's in a well draining soil mix. These like to dry out all the way before you water them, and yeah, they're one of those plants that's kind of known for thriving on neglect. So yeah, if you are just one of those plant parents that just needs to kind of forget about your plants, you've got too much going on in life, go ahead, and yeah, these are always okay. Of course, I do have to give a mention to the snake plant. You will find that any type of snake plant will grow really well for you. These actually do prefer really bright light, and they do grow better if you put them in really bright light. But I have a number of snake plants because, as I say, they do come in all different types. This is one of the types, and honestly, they are absolutely fine through the colder months. And I've been through several of the cold UK winters with these, and they are just such brilliant plants. They never ever skip a beat. They don't tend to grow as much during the colder months, which, as I said earlier, is really normal. But honestly, if you want a plant that is just going to give you absolutely no hassle, get yourself a snake plant and yeah, have a little experiment, because there are quite a number of different snake plants. So this is kind of the one that most people know, and then you've also got so many others too. So yeah, do a bit of research and see what different snake plants are out there. I think you will definitely be impressed. I remember when I first started collecting plants, I kind of gravitated toward calatheas, as a lot of people do. Calatheas can be really fussy, so a really good alternative is the Maranta, and Marantas are nowhere near as dramatic as calatheas. These guys are super simple to care for, and I think that you will find this to be really easy. This one does prefer to stay a little bit more moist than some of the other plants I've showed you today, but it's certainly not going to die on you if you let it dry out. But you get that same kind of beautiful patterning on the leaves that you might get from a calathea, but you don't have to suffer the drama that calatheas bring. But yeah, and also Marantas, they do come in different colours too. You can get a lemon lime version, and there are some other ones. I think there's the silver band, which is like a silvery colour. But yeah, this is the classic Maranta fascinator that you'll see around an awful lot. This one's really cheap to get hold of too, very easy to get. You'll find it in many garden centres. So next I have the Aloe Vera, and this plant is definitely one of the most adaptable, one of the easiest. It also thrives on neglect. It loves to be really dry between waterings because it has the kind of fleshy leaves. So it definitely likes to dry out, and yeah, it likes to be neglected. I find that it doesn't like low light and it doesn't like direct sun. Mine likes bright indirect light, and I've kind of learnt that about this one because I've had this a few years. I actually had this one. It started out as a tiny little baby and it's kind of grown to this, and as you can see, it's having babies of its own now. But yeah, aloe vera is one of the most popular houseplants out there. Again, it's very easy and very cheap to get hold of, and you'll find it everywhere for that reason. And yeah, I can highly recommend this one. They do get quite big. This isn't as big as they can get far bigger than this, but yeah, they are super easy to care for, and yeah, they do thrive on neglect. They don't like to be pandered too much. They just like to be left alone to do their thing. Most plants do, unless it's, say, a calathea or an alocasia, but you won't be finding any of those on this list, even though you can grow those plants in the UK. These are all plants that you can grow in the UK, but they're not going to give you any trouble. So I hope you enjoyed today's list and it gave you some ideas for your next houseplant shopping list. If you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you are a houseplant addict like me. Until next time guys, take care.